That better, Travis? That's better. I think I wasn't on, I didn't join in audio, I think was the deal. That should work right up there too, but I don't know why it doesn't. It says mute on my thing.
That's good. You didn't know. There's no back food. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about now, Travis? Can you hear us? Better?
Okay.
Okay, good.
So going back to that, Travis, what I said for mainly your benefit and Mark from the radio station's benefit is that we will be having, both of you media people asked if we were going to have discussion on the budget. And so far, most of our budget sessions have been hearing proposals from the different departments. And so starting tomorrow, we still have some department head presentations, but we will start some of the discussion on the budget as far as deciding what proposals we would like to see, what proposals we think we can't afford or can't afford. So those discussions will start tomorrow night, but they will also continue on our meetings on January 25th, January 26th, and January 30th. So if you guys from the press and the radio station could get that information out to the public, that if anybody's interested in hearing what's going on budget-wise, like I said before, we probably will, there may be a little bit of public comment at those meetings, but we're not going to open up to full-fledged discussions. But if you come to those meetings, you can hear the discussion, and then you're certainly welcome to visit with your council members and give them your opinions as far as where they think the budget should be headed. So the 19th, the 25th, the 26th, and the 30th will be the nights when we will have those budget discussions. Bob Steenson at the press had asked why we didn't Zoom those. And the reason is we do those down in the council chambers, not up here at the council table, just because it's more conducive to good discussion, and we aren't set up logistically to do that on Zoom very well. So that's why those meetings are not on Zoom, but they're certainly open meetings, and anybody is welcome to come and attend. Okay. So I talked about the miscellaneous correspondence, and we will discuss that on the 25th. Brad, anything for you tonight?
No, Your Honor.
I had a question for Brad.
Go.
So obviously, there's a lot of discussion around the pipeline from legality perspective. And we briefly touched on it several months ago. And so we're going to tee this up again later this month. From a city-owned property, the Southwest Bypass, that is the proposed route right now of one or two pipelines.
I believe one.
Right now it's one.
It's not
And,
the
one.
and that's actually owned by
ADC.
ADC.
Okay.
And there's a development agreement with the city, but the actual legal owner is Area Development. So they'd be the party that would be engaged in discussions with the pipeline company.
From a city perspective, legality perspective, where do we fit into that?
Steve and I reviewed that development agreement probably a few weeks ago. Without getting into too much detail, ADC is required to pay the city a portion of income it receives annually from farm rent while that development agreement is in place and prior to the property being sold. But I don't believe the city would have much say in whether ADC decided to enter into an agreement with Summit. That would be an ADC decision.
So really, we're a benefactor of whatever the ADC
Well, unless we go
decides.
the county route, which, you know, the county is talking about having their zoning changed so they can say where you can put a pipeline and where you can't put a pipe. That's what the county's kind of getting at. And so I'm assuming we could do that if we wanted to. We could change our whole zoning, which we just changed, and say, you know, you can't put a pipeline in, or it has to be so far from this or so far from that, or Could we do those? That would be a legal thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and that's not something I've looked into. I know some county, like you said, some county supervisor. Not, I don't know if. ours has, but-
Bremer County is,
Okay.
Yeah, have taken stands on that, but it's not something I've looked into and researched as far as what potential city options would be. I could certainly do that if.
I wouldn't at this point until we get further into the discussion.
Sure.
so this is more just an informational type. At some point down the road, would we as a council be looking to make a yes or no with regards to that, or are we just as an informational at this point?
I guess my feeling is after we have the informational session,
Mhm.
if some of the council wants to put that on a workshop to discuss, do we want to involve ourselves in that somehow? That is a possibility. I guess personally, I don't know that we want to involve ourselves in that, but I may be the minority. So if somebody says, yes, we want to get involved in that, I guess it would be up to approaching Steve and say, can we put this on a workshop?
And I know some communities have passed resolutions just stating their thoughts and stance on it. Just make that known. That's, I mean, some have, some haven't. I mean, it all, I guess, depends, but there's some samples out there, but it's just more of a, here's a council taking action on how we feel about this. It could be one way or the other, I guess, but.
The reason I bring it up because we're going through the TIF process with it. So to me, we do have some sort of play in this. Or do we even have a voice at this point?
I don't know, I think, the agreement just, it obviously doesn't address this situation specifically, but it generally states how, they need to keep that property in saleable condition, right? I mean,
Right.
that's the idea that they sell it, and then after whatever, 10 years or whatever that time period is, they could revert back to the city or something like that. But yeah, I mean, we've granted it to ADC so they could sell it.
Okay.
And so I would, whatever Brad says there, but I think our options would be based on that.
And part of that development agreement also states that if it is sold or when it is sold, that they have to pay off the remaining TIF debt
That's correct.
out of that.
And I don't want to get too far down the road on this since we don't have it on the agenda.
Right.
We're kind of starting to
Right.
discuss
Right.
something that's not on the agenda, so I want to
Yeah.
be careful there. But yeah, and it is the South Grand TIF district, actually.
Yeah, South Cram. So like I say, I think at this 25th meeting, we will get some information. And then if the council people want to pursue it further, then I think we would put it on a workshop.
On that meeting, I would encourage us to limit the repeat discussion.
Yep.
Because many of these meetings, there's not much new.
Correct.
It starts fresh and that ends over and over and over again.
I agree 100%. So
If we want to research it, there's a lot of it out there we can find on our own, just so we come in well prepared.
I agree, Keith. We want to let them make a 5-minute presentation and be able for us to ask them questions, but it doesn't need to be a 45-minute presentation.
Yep.
All right, so did we get to your report yet?
No, you haven't yet. As you've already stated, we do have some budget meetings. Actually, we have one tomorrow night at 5:30. And then next week on Wednesday and Thursday, we have a budget meeting at 5:30 on the 25th and 26th. And then on the 30th at 5:30. We have another budget meeting. So,
So they're all 5:30s.
yep, we're getting meetinged out, aren't we? That's it.
Okay. Steve, report.
Just to say, I passed out an updated levy sheet and notes for tomorrow night, hard copies. It's basically what I emailed out earlier today, but there's a hard copy for you to take a look at. I've made some proposed changes. We'll certainly be discussing those in detail, but give some thought and look at that as you work through it, but we'll plan on reviewing it tomorrow.
Board Commissioner Committee reports.
Parks and Rec, just meeting before we came over here, and JEO, the people that they're working with for the pool, presented some options. They all look beautiful and wonderful. So they definitely, the board has some hard decisions ahead of what's going to be best that the community wants and keeping budget in mind, what can we handle? So, if people have opinions on what the pool is really in need of to make it a place that they want to be at, then let your friendly Parks and Rec board member know.
Because they pretty much have made the decision to keep the pool, repair the pool, but to add some amenities that makes it bigger and better.
Yep.
One of the amenities they have talked about tonight said, I don't think there's any of these in Iowa yet, so.
Yeah, so they're definitely looking at some new things at our current pool location. So trying to, balance expenditure and what we can save by not moving the pool or changing much of the footprint. So.
Anybody else with any board or commissioner committee reports? Not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. You drew the good straw. You got the short meeting.
Do you guys have a pool going of how many calls between now and noon tomorrow?